Hello, my name is Marcus Ruiz Evans, founder of the Cal Exit movement in 2012 with the book California's Next Century 2.0, with a special message to anyone who is a Californian and anyone who is concerned about the future nation and its right to exist, known as ARTSAKH. Every nation and all people have the right to self-determination. How do we know this? Because the founding document, the founding organization that created international law and the construction of international laws that everyone in the world has to obey, is the United Nations. When the UN was formed in 1945, every nation that was party to it, which included all nations at that time in the world, had to sign a treaty to be a member nation. The treaty, called UN Charter Chapter 1, Article 1, Part 2, said that every nation that is part of the UN and the UN itself recognizes the right of self-determination for all peoples. Quotes, "The right of a people to self-determination is a cardinal principle in modern international law, commonly regarded as jus cogens rule, binding as such on the United Nations as authoritative interpretation of the Charter's norms. It states that people, based on respect for the principle of equal rights and fair equality of opportunity, have the right to freely choose their sovereignty and international political status with no interference." In 1941, allies of World War II declared the Atlantic Charter and accepted the principle of self-determination around the world. In January 1942, 26 states signed the Declaration by United Nations, which accepted those principles of self-determination. The ratification of the United Nations Charter at the end of World War II placed the right of self-determination into a framework of international law and diplomacy. Chapter 1, Article 1, Part 2 states that the purpose of the UN and its charter is to develop friendly relations among nations based upon respect for the mutual principle of equal rights and self-determination of peoples, and to take other appropriate measures to strengthen universal peace. It's right there in the founding document. Every nation in 1945 had to sign that document, essentially signing a treaty and saying they agree to that interpretation. Every nation that exists is part of the UN and also had to sign that treaty. And the basic framework of what we call international law and legal precedent and justice comes from this original document, all of which said people have the right to choose self-determination for their nation. The principle is still one that dominates the interpretation of all international legal interpretation today. In fact, the United Nations support for the right to self-determination, while slower than it was at its historic peak in the 20th century, remains both a source of pride for the organization and a crucial pillar of its work going forward. That was from Secretary General António Guterres on February 21st, 2020, only a few months ago. The head of the UN recommitted this interpretation, recalling that the United Nations list of non-self-governing territories stood at 72 in 1946. Today it is 17. That means that over 50 new nations exist that at one point we would not consider separate nations, but rather a people existing within a formal nation. Many of the remaining territories are small islands, according to the current UN Secretary General. However, the United Nations Secretary said that he is committed to, quotes, eliminating colonialism once for all. That means making these small nations, these small islands, full nations. In fact, size and economic size of a potential country seems to have nothing to do with whether an area is able to become a country. Kosovo and East Timor were tiny parts of land with bad transportation, no economy, no prospects of a real functional economy, no military, or really ability to provide services or defense. Both were granted nationhood. The nation of South Sudan was in a war zone and had no prospects for a functional economy or possibly even a functional democracy, and it also became a recognized nation. This is because the UN principle of self-determination is based on one thing. As the Secretary General says, Guterres, process that must be guided by the aspirations and needs of the community living in the non-self-governing territory. That is the only consideration according to the UN. What do the people who live there want? what government do they choose to be part of? The right of self-determination. It's also known as the right of free association, if you look at it that way. And so it is the case with the future nation that will be known as ARTSAKH. It is a small country with a troubled economy and in a region known for chaos. Yet none of these concerns mattered when the creation of other nations. ARTSAKH has the right to be a nation, and what is most important is this truth. We Californians alone have the capability to ensure that ARTSAKH becomes a nation. The key to becoming a nation is in international law, recognition by other existing nations. This was outlined in the book on how to gain international recognition recently by California professor Bridget Coggins at the University of California, Santa Barbara. Californians can and should ensure that ARTSAKH will receive recognition by nations around the world. How do we know we can do this all by ourselves as Californians? Well, because we already did it. ARTSAKH was only recognized by other quasi-nations with questionable status who were part of the former Soviet Union. That was until California alone recognized ARTSAKH and its right to become a nation. The California government passed AJR 32, Assembly Joint Resolution 32, the Nagorno-Karabakh Republic, in October of 2014, declaring that the California government by itself, and it completely with the government in line here, said that ARTSAKH is a nation and has the right to be recognized as one. We, the people of California, can demand our government do more than a resolution, that they build on this bold and courageous and very proper first step, but do another one. Make a resolution that the California government pledges itself to being committed to gaining and encouraging the rest of the world to provide international recognition to ARTSAKH. To put it simply, we are the world's 5th largest economy. We are the home of Hollywood. We are the home of Silicon Valley and the internet. We can get ideas out there in popular culture, the internet, movies, entertainment, and our government routinely influences people on policy issues such as gay rights. We have the ability to influence the world in ideas everywhere and anywhere, whenever we want. We've already done it. Consider climate change. Until California in 2008, the world had a stalemate on climate change. Now, everyone knew that it was an issue, but no government would actually propose or pass legislation. That includes the United Nations itself, the EU, NATO, the World Economic Forum, and America. Nobody could do it. Then a place called California in 2008 decided they were going to pass global climate change legislation by themselves. They had international forums, invited partner agencies, passed legislation, and they did such a good job that in 2009, Ban Ki-moon, the Secretary General of the United Nations then, asked California to continue to work on global climate change. You see, the UN recognized that climate change needed to be done, and nobody could get it done. California by itself, single-handedly, 2008, made it happen. Quotes, after last year's successful Governors Global Climate Summit, the United Nations asked California to host another summit focused on the great work of cities, states, and regions, which are ahead of federal governments in developing solutions to climate change. That was in an article entitled Governor Schwarzenegger and United Nations Open Governors Global Climate Summit 2 by Cindy Holden, California Newswire, September 30th, 2009. We did it. The world had an intractable problem. Nobody was willing to take it on. Nobody was willing to propose legislation. California made the legislation, held UN-type summits on its own, and did such a good job the United Nations said, keep moving. In fact, the world only has the climate change legislation that it has because of we Californians ourselves. We literally influence the entire world on our own, by ourselves, with no concern for what Americans thought or being held up by them. So why can't we do it again? Why can't we do that again with the California government, using all of its power and reach and in coordination with Silicon Valley and other entertainers here in California to push the world's nations to recognize ARTSAKH? It is something we can do as Californians. We can force our government to do this and formally declare, as a California government, that they will take on this sacred mission for the emerging nation of ARTSAKH. We can force our California government as Californians to say, we want you to take it as a sacred goal, like you did with climate change, to ensure that the future nation of ARTSAKH will achieve international recognition, a pivotal state and a pivotal step for it to be able to have success and safety going forward. Which brings us now to the big announcement. Yes, California today now formally pledges to push the California government to embrace the public goal of working to push the world to recognize ARTSAKH with diplomatic relations. We have been able to get the California government to publicly embrace the fact that we Californians spend more on the federal government than we get back. That we can legally secede through Texas versus White and approval by a congressional vote of 51%, and in fact that we are a nation. People would never say those things before Yes California and CalEx had started, and now everybody acts like they're the truth. That's because of us alone. We were able to influence ideas here in California, and we pledge ourselves to this one now. We at Yes California intend to get international attention on the idea that California can by itself and should, si se puede, regardless of what America thinks, push the world to recognize and provide international recognition for ARTSAKH. The way we know we can get the media and everyone in California talking about an issue is to open an embassy for the theoretical nation. We opened an embassy to the future independent Republic of California in a foreign country, and we made a video on behalf of the future independent Republic of California to another foreign nation. Both times, Yes California, CalEx on its own, got global news for each event. That's 2 in a row. The idea of California as a nation is something that grabs the imagination of the entire world. French, English newspapers, and German newspapers routinely cover us. In fact, why was it a British newspaper that said first, Californians may be interested in CalEx, given that Americans barely refuted Donald Trump and almost elected him into office? The Europeans in the world find the idea of California as a nation fascinating. So when they see Californians talk about an independent California and link that idea to another, they pay attention. This is how we alone achieved worldwide news coverage of our message to a foreign nation and our embassy in a foreign nation. Roughly, here is the process to open an embassy to a foreign nation here in California in partnership with Yes California and our guidance, but led by you, that we can guarantee will get international recognition and therefore move the dial on getting attention to raising awareness that the California government should take on the sacred and honorable duty of making sure that the world will recognize ARTSAKH. Here's the Yes California proven path to opening a foreign embassy. You say that you are opening a cultural center, not an embassy. Essentially, it is an office space, roughly a large area. It doesn't have to be a big room, but it can be sizable enough to hold effectively a museum exhibit. You put posters up saying to come and visit that future nation. Pictures of the area and almost like a travel brochure, come and visit this spot and that spot in the future nation, acting as though it is a nation already. You have exhibits explaining the unique culture of that future place, and you have one banner that says the name of that independent nation, about 10 feet long, and then on the opposite side of the wall, you would have a banner that says the future independent Republic of California. When the news sees an office space with professional posters about an independent nation being recognized by a future independent California, they will go wild. This will cause the public to talk about the idea of an independent ARTSAKH. So Yes California is proposing that we create an embassy from the people of California to the people of ARTSAKH here in California to raise awareness about the need of ARTSAKH to gain international recognition and to help gain momentum amongst Californians so that the California government has to do it because too many of us are pushing for it. We here at Yes California are dedicated to launching an embassy from the people of California to the people of ARTSAKH somewhere here in a sizable Armenian community. We need a reputable Californian who has good standing in California and amongst the Armenian community here of Californians and is in fact themselves Armenian. That person or group would agree to work with Yes California to host this place. This office space would explain all you need to know about ARTSAKH and the UN right to self-determination and would highlight that California, its government, has already recognized the right of ARTSAKH to become a nation. We're simply following the leadership of our fabulous California government. It would also explain the fighting in this region and how ARTSAKH, because it is not a recognized nation, had its land seemingly given way against the wishes of them and their people. This exhibit would be aimed at doing one thing, raising awareness among Californians that we alone can force our government to push the entire world, like we did with climate change, to recognize a future independent Republic of Artsakh. Yes, California is committed to this, and we have been reaching out to partners among Californians who are in the Armenian community and are in good standing in the California Armenian community too. And we will continue to do so. Additionally, yes, California will be approaching Cole Sternberg and his museum exhibit in El Segundo on a free Republic of California to ask if his next traveling exhibit, which is located inside his permanent exhibit, can be about the independent Republic of Artsakh. We are looking for partners, but we announced this goal today, and we will not stop until we have achieved it, just like we did with the indigenous, and just like we did with the concept that California financially and legally could become independent.